Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7, the Apostle Paul is addressing an issue with the church at Corinth in that they were becoming preoccupied with various things in connection to this world. They were worried about marital status. Those who are unmarried, should they get married? Those who are married, should they get a divorce? They were concerned with religious status. Those who were circumcised, should they get uncircumcised? And those who were not circumcised, should they get circumcised? And then they were also concerned with social status, in particular in connection to whether they should, if they were a slave, are they forced now to become, to leave their masters now that Christ has become their master? What kind of situation or what kind of reaction should they have in that particular situation? So that would probably follow under one's social status. And nonetheless, all these different things are really just things that would distract them and get them really just focusing on the things of the world, external things. And the Apostle Paul would say, you know what, just remain with God in that condition with which you are called. If the opportunity does come up and you can change your situation, or circumstances change where you change your situation, fine, but you're not forced to change these various things. Just remain in the condition that you're in. And so the Apostle Paul is trying to get them away from those distractions. And that's very important for us as believers as well. Even though we may not have the specific issues that the church at Corinth had there in the first century, we do sometimes become distracted by these three different categories. Oftentimes people are distracted by their marital status. If they're not married, they become obsessed with, trying to get married, and they might feel inferior to others who have already found a spouse and have already started a family. Or those who are married might think, well, maybe I shouldn't be married because maybe I could serve the Lord better if I wasn't married. Or maybe in a very similar situation, maybe they're married to an unbeliever, and we can get really distracted by just, what is our situation in connection to marriage. And then also there's religious status. Although circumcision and uncircumcision isn't necessarily a big deal anymore, there are other things, other external, superficial things that people latch onto when it comes to religion that they tie to status within the church. And we can get preoccupied with those things. Or social status, thinking, well, because I'm poor, because I don't come to church in a 2025 Suburban or some real expensive vehicle, or I don't have a nice home to entertain with or entertain in, or just in general, I just don't have as much money as other people around me, so therefore I'm inferior to others. And we can get caught up with our social status, or maybe if we are wealthy and the Lord has blessed us with a lot, feeling guilty for the fact that we have so much when other people don't have so much. All these things just really get our minds focused on the world and external things. And the Apostle Paul would say, we need to rid ourselves of those distractions. And really the most important thing in a person's life is keeping the commandments of God. And he says that in connection to the circumcision issue, where he says circumcision is nothing and uncircumcision is nothing, but what matters is the keeping of the commandments of God. And I believe that principle would apply to all these different things we've been talking about. It's not so much whether you're married or you're not married. It's not so much whether you have some badge of honor within the religious community. It's not whether you have some high social status, you've achieved some high social status, and maybe you're in the upper class or the middle class or the lower class or whatever class you might be in. It's not about that. What really matters in life is keeping the commandments of God. If a person is keeping the commandments of God, that's all that they need. Even in the book of Ecclesiastes, we read that, to fear God and to keep his commandments, that's the whole duty of man. If you've got that down, you're doing good in life. And don't allow yourself to get distracted by all these other ways in which we kind of judge ourselves and kind of try to determine where we fit in connection to everybody else. All we have to do is just worry about keeping God, or fearing God, and keeping his commandments. You know, a person who dies dirt poor, lonely, unmarried, and maybe even despised by other religious people, but at the end of the day, or at the end of their life, they have kept the commandments of God, they're going to be a lot more happier on the other side than a person who perhaps had all of those things, had a high social status, was married and had the 2.5 children, and you know, was looked up by other members of the church, but didn't keep the commandments of God, but lived a life without integrity, without discipline, without submitting to the Lord. You know, a person who doesn't have the things that the world thinks are so important, but keeps the commandments of God, is going to be a lot better than the reverse. So let's remember that. Sometimes we need to remember what life truly is all about, because we can get distracted by the world and get off focus. Keep God, or fear God, excuse me, and keep his commandments. If we can do that, we are on the right path. And that should be our gauge as to where we are in life. So here's some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.